if you could introduce yourself to everyone.
Sorry,
I know, it's all good. Gotta get it out.
Get it on out.
Strong start. We're doing well. We're doing well.
My name is...
Yeah. We can start again.
Yeah.
Well, that will stay in, but if you'd like to introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi, my name is Jim Brown. I'm the level designer over at Strange Scaffold. Modder previously on the Skyrims and Fallout 4, and just happy to be here, man.
Nice. Yeah, me too. So,
Yeah.
no of us can complain. I'm happy you're here. Like, this is going well.
I'm happy that you're happy I'm here,
This is a good
We're all
time.
happy.
We're all happy. Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah. So, the first question I got for you is not so much what was the first video game you played, but like, what was the first video game you played that you were like, hey, wait, these video games, I wouldn't mind being a part of this, or like, I could make one of these. Like, what was that first thing for you?
So this actually goes way back, I think, 2001, 2002. I was 7 years old, and I had played StarCraft 1. And StarCraft 1 had this world editor machine that you saw a bunch of custom games from people playing when you went online, and a bunch of tower defense games and things like that. And as soon as I started playing those, and I realized you could actually edit those maps, it was kind of like the first time I realized, oh, you can actually design things inside of video games and start messing around with it. So I would like go inside of these maps, I download them, and I would just start like messing around with whatever designs a person came up with, come up with my own tower defenses. I even had like a stick that I would like kind of role play how the sequences would work, like when they were kind of coming on in. If you can imagine like a kid holding just like a stick and just like pointing at something and shooting as the NPCs are walking by, like
a literal stick. Like,
a literal
I was like, is
stick.
this a technical term? I don't know.
Oh, no.
I guess you said you were 7, so it wouldn't be.
I actually still have the stick. It's hanging above my computer.
Oh.
So actually,
I mean, definitely you need to get it down. Like that.
Okay, yeah. I'll keep it up there for now. But
as soon as you looked up, I could see the kind of. It's going to be a lot of work to get that down.
It's going to be a climb.
So
all right. I don't want to put on the gloves yet. Okay. No. But it was a fun time. Like I was just messing around with it. None of it was good. None of it was balanced. But you're a 7-year-old messing around with the engine and playing around with it. But that was really my true first experience where I realized like, oh, you can actually make things out of these games and actually like start designing things and playing around with like the initial designs of these areas and just mess around with it. And it was fun, man. Loved that.
Yeah, like I know it seemed a lot of level designers came from that kind of modding scene, like especially like the kind of, like you say, that kind of era PC times as well.
Definitely.
And like you mentioned like Skyrim modding and like Fallout modding, things like that. And like, what was kind of the first thing or project? And this could be a game, or like it could just be a thing you did yourself. Like it could even be, like I've said to other people, like it could even be like the time you just made a box move up and like by just pressing up on the keyboard and you're like, oh, I did that. Like nice. But what was that first thing for you? That first kind of project or moment making something that you were like, this is mine?
This was back in, I believe, 2013, 2014. It was a Skyrim Skyrim mod called Remnant of Kings, which I was making with my brother back in the day. And we were working inside of the Creation Kit, which is the Bethesda engine that makes all these types of games. And my brother and I just kind of went crazy with it. We just started designing out interiors, messing around with the assets that Skyrim gave us. And we're kind of just like seeing what we could do inside the engine. As it is typical with most first projects, it was scope creeped very highly. So it never did get a final release on it. But it was kind of the first time where I was messing with those assets in a way which was actually trying to think of the level design. So how should this move? How should the player mess around in the space? What should the things happen while you're inside that area? And it opened my eyes a ton towards like what this industry is and get me right into it.
Nice. Like, where did you go from there? Like, what was kind of the, I guess, the path towards Strange Scaffold? Like, where did you take that? Like, kind of modding and like onwards.
Oh, totally. So the next thing I did after that was first there was the Skyrim or Remnant of Kings I was working on. And then my brother was actually going to George Mason University, and he was taking game design courses there. I was still going to Nova, which was Northern Virginia Community College at the time, to try and work up towards there. I could tell you my grades would not allow me to get into George Mason or anything else.
Me either. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah.
So what we did is my brother was going there, and he got into a gaming club. I was at the location. Now, I wasn't going to the university. I was never allowed to go to this club, but I just snuck in anyway and just like joined up with these people and just started doing it. We weren't sure if I was allowed to do anything or not, so he pretty much just said, hey, act like you still go to the school, you know? So incognito, just messing around with the environments. They had this whole contest to pick like a level, and 100 people in the club voted as to which game they wanted, and somehow my game was picked for the university. So the person that's not going to the university ends up getting the game picked that they're going to make for that entire semester, you know?
How did no one go when you won? They were like, wait, we don't have any records of this guy. Like,
they never checked.
Hey!
They never checked. I just walked in and was like, hey guys, what's up? How's this George Mason University, you know? Like, really
Don't
cool.
you just love this place? I know I do.
Like, you know that one professor? He's a really cool guy, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
or
he's
not,
really
depending on how you feel.
Yeah. But after that happened, the biggest step I would say after that event, that kind of introduced me to game design and the way you could make things. But then the next biggest one was definitely when I joined the Skyrim mod Lordbound. On that project, there's actually a lot of developers which have gone on to work in AAA, some of which were already working in AAA by the time I had joined it. And on that project, I learned almost everything that I could from level design from the lead designer on the team, which was Mikael Waring. And he's worked on projects like Halo Wars 2, Horizon Zero Dawn during his internship. Most recently, Helldivers 2. So he taught me a bunch of techniques and things that I could pretty much just like polish up my design a bit more and learn how to like really narrow down the things I needed to do to get like a nice, complete, polished level and send that out to folks. And funnily enough, Lordbound, which has been in development for a while now, is finally going to be releasing coming up next year. So it's everyone's excited about it in the internal chats, and it's going to be a big one. All I can say about it, but yeah. But that was my next big step after that.
So is Strange Scaffold the first like studio like you've worked with, or like did you go from modding to Strange Scaffold, or like was there anything in between?
I had a Fallout 4 mod I made with my brother, so there was a horror experience. We made a Lovecraftian horror mod together. We released that out. If anyone wants to try it, Children of Uqquiltoth, scare your pants off. Okay. And then after this, I actually worked on a small project called Adventure Roll, and that was my first really hired gig. But I don't really technically consider that as game design oriented, because what it was actually a virtual tabletop simulator where they were trying to take not really D&D because they didn't own the rights to that, but just try and create essentially like a tabletop experience where you could play with your character in first person and in third person. You could walk around environments which I was helping them build at the time, and then just kind of play out your D&D experience. I don't know where that project's at or anything else like that, but that was my real first experience, kind of getting in. And then eventually leading up to Strange Scaffold after that. And what happened was my brother or my friend, Keanu, he contacted me. He was like, "Hey, this person's looking up this project," and he posted it on Twitter, right? And I'm like, "Oh, okay." I don't personally use Twitter or most social media, so I was just totally out of the loop with that. And he just let me know, like, "Hey, man, you should really like see if you can get on this." Like, actually, he's just like, "You need to do this," and I'm like, "Okay, man. Like, hey, I'll give it a shot." Like, and I got contacted by Nelson. And from there, pretty much just like I think within the first week after getting contact, I was just right on to El Paso elsewhere and started working on the level design for that.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty great. Like straight in.
Yeah, man.
So taking it around to Beast, you mentioned you're doing level design.
Yeah.
And when someone plays the game, like what like levels did you specifically do, or like what are the things that someone would see in the game and you're like, that's me, that's a bit of me, like that's my bit in this game?
Definitely. So, in the demo, I did level number 3, which was the nighttime level. I also did the tutorial level and worked on that process for it. I'd say any levels which are big, so in terms of larger designs, is probably mine. So I have a very particular style in terms of making wider, larger levels. Sometimes that might not fit with this game, but in terms of like the design area, I like to try and mess around with that playground aspect. So give them a lot of options to play around with when they're shooting around inside there. So let's just say if you go inside a level and it takes you probably like 20 seconds to run to the other side, that's probably my level. Probably my level inside of there. Yeah, that'd be like my big kind of stamping point on it.
Nice. Do you have a favorite level that you designed?
The tutorial. I love the tutorial. I think in terms of just like it was the first one where we actually did a full like design prep. So here's like the gray box. Here's like the debugging for like how should this bird fly around the environment. And actually we weren't originally going to have the bird flying. I just added it in there anyway, and I'm like, we gotta have a bird flying. Like it's gotta happen, you know. Something you can chase around there. And also it's just fun because it's just parkour, right? You're just like, here's a sequence of events and you're teaching the player something that is pretty important. Like I think tutorials are really important. It's kind of the first thing that establishes what a game's like theming is, how it's supposed to feel, how you're supposed to move around the environment, what's the controls you're supposed to use. And I love teaching players, especially mechanics like those. So definitely the tutorial up there on my listing.
Nice, man. What influences did you bring to the game when you were like making your levels, or like any kind of influences on you at that for Beast?
Oh, so when I first joined, and I'll have to send you screenshots after this because we have some early stuff. But we originally only had just like essentially here's white snow and purple rocks, and that was essentially just like the main textures we were using inside the game. Oh, and some dirt roads inside there. After I came in, I've never used the Unity terrain tool before, but I kind of realized off my experience working inside Skyrim and Fallout 4, there's a lot of stuff you can do to really like make these things look dynamic and make them look really nice with like some nice little speckling inside the flooring, have some nice shading work that makes it so it can kind of like transition smoothly into dirt, into snow, into rock. And pretty much the first thing as soon as I joined was just trying to get that terrain system so that we could have more and more assets and more textures to work with and kind of like really flesh this out. I also was trying to like get down how should the visual rhythm kind of work in the game, or the visual like pathing work. So when we were ranking our levels originally, it was just like, hey, anytime that we design something, if there's a rock there, like put rock texturing around it, and then make sure that wherever there's snow, that's essentially where the player can run. And then we kind of just went off that, made it so that it was nice and clear where the player could run around the arena, because it gets hectic at times, gets very loud, and we just wanted to make it very clear for those things. I do have like some small handprints here and there. All the time with meetings with Dan and Kevin, we're always just brainstorming ideas and just like tossing out stuff that we feel like could work well inside the game. So I can't run down a full list, but I would say like that's probably like the biggest visual impact you'll see in terms of the design that's there.
That's awesome. And when you're designing a level, are there any games or like environments or anything like that? I mean, you've obviously Skyrim and Fallout, like you mentioned, that those are pretty
Definitely.
formative. Is there any other games that you're kind of like, oh, I love the way they did X, Y, Z. I brought that into like that kind of sense into Beast or anything like that?
So originally definitely Halo. So I think Halo was a big influence in terms of the design set. Just because Halo has that vibe of just, you can just do anything you want when you're in these levels. And it's the true playground vibe that I think we try to aim for, but in a smaller, tight-knit and enclosed kind of environment. But try and aim for that same vibe of, you can do this or you can do that, or instead of maybe taking the left path, take the right path, and see what happens. Maybe you jump out of bounds and you find that secret thing out in the middle of nowhere, right? That we just have like in the precipice. Or maybe a player figures out they can go out of bounds and like break the level doing this one sequence, like QA, don't kill me, okay? I swear, I'm fixing it, all right? We're getting in. But, I think those are still things that in gaming are very fun to the environment. Like that feeling of, you can just do anything you want inside this place, and we're just giving you the tools that just go crazy with it. So I think Halo was probably my biggest influence. And then secondly, after playing this, I started to play Neon White. And Neon White is a fantastic game. Anyone that hasn't played it, jump on there. Has a really cool gun system with like cards and things. Highly recommended. Seeing how they design their levels in terms of having it so it's much more puzzle oriented in how you kind of play those out was also a big thing, because we were kind of trying to figure out like, hey, you have a very, very playground-esque environment. They can do anything they want, but there is still that score element. You're trying to get that S rank score. You're trying to figure out, how do you do this? So it was an interesting thing to figure out, okay, how do you create a puzzle using that larger space? And the fun part is just playing around and figuring it out. So we give you ways to shoot certain enemies in certain ways. We give you different obstacles that you need to try and jump over. Different paths that you kind of are baits. So they're not the S rank path, but they're a path, And maybe you go down that path the first time. You're like, wait, that's not faster. So let's go the left path, to get that S rank off it. And all those types of gameplay dynamics came together to kind of create like a nice blend between Halo and Neon White. I'm certain that on the original front, Hotline Miami and all those games are definitely there. I hate to admit it, I haven't played Hotline Miami yet. It is on my radar.
It's good.
It's first game coming up. All right.
Yeah, I recommend it. And it's sequel,
definitely,
both good.
Definitely.
Tough but good.
Tough but good. I love it. But yeah, those have been the big ones, and it's just fun. It's just fun kind of seeing like those two things, I think, kind of blend in that style.
So when someone plays I Am Your Beast, what are you hoping they get from it? Like, what are you hoping the experience they have, or the feeling they have, or like what they take away from it? Like, what is that for you?
That feeling of discovery, I think. Now, I'm biased as a level designer, and as I mentioned before, I love the playground aspect of the level design from Halo and those types of titles. But I think discovery is a large part of what makes games like this so interesting, because you're not just playing it once and then you're forgetting. You're playing it multiple times. I'm hoping they play it multiple times to kind of figure out. We added a lot of elements here that you're supposed to kind of get some nice replayability in terms of what you can do and how those paths interact and change the way that you play these environments. And I think like players finding those secret things we have in the world, players figuring out or creating their own challenges of just like, oh, I'm going to do this bonus challenge and I'm going to get S rank, you know, and they're just having a fun time with it, you know. Create your own challenges, discover your own ways to play these levels. And I think that's the biggest thing I hope kind of gets taken away from this game.
Awesome, man. Now this one has turned out, and I've mentioned it before in other videos that currently to me just other calls, but other videos I've mentioned it. This is probably one of the toughest questions it's turned out, and like, don't worry too much about it. But if you were to describe I Am Your Beast in one word, what would that word be?
I would say dynamic. So, and the main reasoning for that is because I think that, as I said before, the ways that you play the game and the ways that you kind of move around this environment is not a static element. It's not something set in stone. The player is supposed to have a dynamic feel as they're doing these, and again, playing it the way they want to play it. So making sure that they have just that nice feeling of even though they finish the game, right? And these levels aren't very long. There's only a select amount that you're going to be able to play by release. That you feel that essence that you want to just keep going. You want to keep figuring out these things, whether it's the S rank, whether it's finishing the challenges, unlocking the bonus levels, whatever those things are. You're feeling like as if there's multiple ways to do that, and you're having fun while you're doing it.
Well, I only got one more question left. And it's not specifically to do a beast, but it's how would you describe working at Strange Scaffold? Because Strange Scaffold's definitely a different kind of developer. And how have you found working there? Like, as honest as you like.
Okay. All right. No, I don't have any gossip or anything. It has been a eye-opening experience, I will say. Now, how much of that is first development studio, I don't know, but I will say, at least talking to the people I know that work in the industry, the people that work at other studios, working at Strange Scaffold has been a very unique, very calming, very life-developing experience on my end. You learn so much about the different things that are going on between the different projects, how these studios are run in terms of making sure that everyone is feeling comfortable and everyone is able to not feel too stressed out. Like I don't think it's impossible to ever remove stress out of a studio, because you're always trying to make that game, always trying to make sure that people are having fun with the game that you're trying to develop. And especially when you get near a release of a game, all those things kind of like come in, but they do everything they can to try and ensure that you're having a calm experience and you're not over stressing yourself out more than you need to. And especially the producers, Horace and Candace that I've worked with before, they do everything they can to ensure, like, hey, how are you feeling? Are you feeling all right? You need to take a day off? And I'm like, yeah, I'll take it, you know?
Is that what I ask you, like, every day? Like, do you need help? You know what I do?
They come behind me virtually, give a pat on the back, like, you okay? You all right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Thanks, yeah. I appreciate it, though. I love it. But having that whole thing of them checking on your well-being while also trying to ensure that you're, making these games, trying to hit like something that you feel is fun is something that's big. And to be honest, the biggest thing I think is kind of the freedom that you have in a lot of these designs. The way that it kind of works right now is just Nelson is just like, hey, here's the design of the game. Here's the design doc. Here's the ideas we have for the levels. Do your thing. And it's just like, all right, yeah, cool. I'll just put my own personality into it. Start messing around with any types of designs that I kind of come up with. Like, I could tell you, Kevin comes up with some crazy designs and concepts. I'm coming up with some crazy designs and concepts. Everyone I've worked with is just going out of their way to create their own type of experience while also keeping it relative to the product they're trying to make or the game they're trying to make, and it's just an extremely unique experience. And based on what I've heard around the studio, it's something you don't tend to get very often at other studios out there.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I You said you're not really on social media or anything like that, because the wrap up question is like, is there any way you want people to follow you on the internet? But like, it seems like you've managed to avoid the whole thing, which is probably not a bad idea.
So what I will say is, if anyone is interested, because I do occasionally go on there, you can follow me at Rockmod Twitter profile right now. If I do post anything, I tend to post on that website, and kind of just like occasionally I go on there and show what I'm working on, or if I'm feeling passionate about something, I'll share it. It's once in a blue moon, but if you are curious about that, that is probably the best place to follow me.
Nice. Are you still working on mods now? Like,
yes. Yes.
What are you working on? I know we were wrapping this up, and now I got another thing. Like,
oh yeah.
Like, I'm like, what are you working on now?
So I'm actually working on a couple things. So I'm working on a project with Keanu right now, which is called Brutalisk. We're currently trying to get some funding for that, which is supposed to be more like a Half-like experience with like brutalist architecture, sci-fi elements inside of there. We're still kind of playing around getting the development process going, but that project is in the works. And then also I'm working with my brother on a Starfield mod. So we're trying to... we got into the verified Bethesda program, so we're currently trying to create something that we feel like we could kind of give to the community in a way that's unique. Still keeping with the horror vibes that my brother and I are known for. We're trying to see, like, could we take Starfield and turn it into a very horrific experience? So that's as much as I could say. We're still very early days, but I am still kind of like messing around with the modding scene of it and keeping in touch with it.
And yeah, people can find more about that on, was it Rockmod?
Yep, Rockmod.
There you
At
go.
Rockmod.
Nice. Thanks, Matt. Well, thank you so much for doing this. And
No, thank you.
Hey, anytime's what I'm here for. We will wrap this thing up. But yeah, thank you very much, man. Good luck with the release.
Thank you.
Not long. Or the time people are seeing this, it probably is already out. So.
It's probably already out, yeah. It's already sold millions of copies by this point, you know. The studio has done fantastic. It's blown up. Best video game to release this year.
We did it. Right now, Jeff Keighley's just giving us trophy after trophy. Like it's a crazy. We're all stood on the stage, like behind, just waving our arms, full of trophies.
Oh, I can't
so
wait.
good.
You know, we're gleaming in the sunshine of gold.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Like, it's gonna be a good time.